Hey Jordan, what do you think the demand will be for like a BMW?
Well, it depends on the consumer's desire and willingness to pay for that car.
What do you mean?
I'm trying to say that if the price of the car is low, then demand will increase, but if the price of the car is high, then the demand will decrease.
Oh, is that the law of demand?
Yep.
What's the difference between demand and the quantity demanded?
Demand is basically an economic principle that describes a consumer's desire and willingness to pay a price for a specific good or service. The quantity demand describes the amount of a good or service that a consumer is willing and able to buy at any given point in time.
Did you also know that purchasing power, which is the amount of money or income that people have available to spend, is caused by a change in price, which is also known as the income effect?
No, that's interesting actually. Did you know what substitution effect is?
Yeah, the substitution effect is the economic understanding that as prices rise or income decreases, then consumers will replace more expensive items with less costly alternatives.
Oh, that makes sense.
Did you also know that as more units of a product are consumed, then the satisfaction received from consuming each additional unit declines?
Yep. Wait, is that called diminishing marginal utility?
Mm-hmm.
Do you know why economists call it that?
Yeah, it's because the additional utility of each unit consumed diminishes with each additional unit.
Oh, that makes sense.
Yeah. Hey Jordan, I was wondering if you could explain to me about a demand schedule and a demand curve.
Of course I can. So if we look at the demand schedule that I made for a car stereo, at the price point of 500, for example, 500 people could afford it. But at the price at 105,000 people can afford it, because the lower the price is, the higher the demand is for that.
Okay.
And for the demand curve, when the price is 100, more people can afford it. And when it gets higher and higher, less people can afford it because not
I
that
understand
many
now. Okay. Thanks Jordan. So I gotta go to practice now.
See you later.
Hey Alyssa,
Hey, Samir.
do you know what can cause shifts in demand?
Yeah, it's consumer taste, market size, income, prices of related goods, and consumer expectations.
Those are the determinants of demand, right?
Yep. Do you know what a substitute good is?
Yeah, it's a good that can be used to replace the purchase of similar goods when prices rise.
Can you show me some examples of one?
Sure. Coca-Cola and Pepsi, tea and coffee, or butter and margarine.
Oh, now I get it. Thanks, Samir.
Yeah, no problem. I have a question.
Yeah, what's the question?
What are goods that are commonly used with other goods called? I forgot what it's called.
It's complementary goods.
Oh yeah.
Can you give me an example of complementary goods?
Yeah, sure. Paintbrushes and paint, printers and ink, and a CD player and a CD.
Thanks for giving me examples of good complementary goods. Now I really understand more about the two types of related goods.
No problem. I gotta go to soccer practice. See you later.
I'll talk to you later.
Hey Samir, how was soccer practice?
It was fun, but tiring. How was tennis practice for you?
It was exhausting and horrible.
Why was it horrible?
I lost every game, but I lost every game.
Dang, that sucks. I won every single game in soccer practice. Oh. Yep, that's why I don't take L's. Hey Alex, can you help me understand more about the subject of elastic demand, because I have a test tomorrow on this?
No, you can't.
What?
Just kidding. Alright, elasticity refers to how sensitive the demand for a good is to changes in other economic variables, such as the prices and consumer income. Demand elasticity is usually measured by total revenue, which is called total receipts, which refers to the total income that a business receives from selling its products.
Oh, okay. Hey Alex, I was told recently that if a good has elastic demand, then the product is a necessity. Is that true?
No. Who told you that?
It was my friend.
Well, that's wrong, because if a good has elastic demand, then the product is not a necessity, and there are readily available substitutes, and the product cost represents a large portion of consumers' income.
Is inelastic demand similar or the same as elastic demand?
Well, not really, because if a good has inelastic demand, then the product is a necessity. And if there are few or no readily substitutes for the product, and the product's cost represents a small portion of the consumer's income. Elastic demand basically exists when a small change in a good's price causes a major opposite change in the quantity demanded, while inelastic demand exists when a change in a good's price has a very little impact on the quantity demanded.
Oh wow, thanks a lot.
Yeah, of course, anytime.
Hey Alex, did you hear about the news?
About what?
About the Tampa, Florida scrambling?
No, what happened?
Well, basically 3 people were killed within 11 days in Tampa, Florida. Police swarmed a Tampa neighborhood where 3 people were killed in the past 2 weeks. But authorities remain baffled and terrified that a serial killer is somewhere out there on the move. The killings in the city's Seminole Heights neighborhood began on October 9 when a 22-year-old was shot and killed in front of his home. The second victim was a 32-year-old and was killed on October 11. The third victim was an autistic 20-year-old. Investigators believe the 3 deaths were linked, since all 3 victims were alone and were all found within about a half mile of each other.
Oh wow, that's insane. What's it called? I have to go. My mom just texted me.
Alright, see ya.
I'll see you. Hey Zemmer, can you please tell me the difference between supply and the quantity supply?
Yeah, sure. The difference is that supply is the quantity of goods and services that producers are willing and able to offer at various possible prices during a given time period. The quantity supplied is the amount of a good or service that a producer is willing to sell at each particular price.
Do you know what the law of demand states?
It states that producers supply more goods when they can sell them at higher prices and fewer goods when they sell them at lower prices.
Oh, now I remember.
Now that I helped you remember, can you help me remember what is a profit and what are costs of production?
Yeah, sure. The cost of production is the total cost of labor, materials, and other inputs required in the manufacture of a product.
Alright, what is a supply schedule, and can you please explain the supply curve?
Yeah. So a supply schedule is a table that lists each quantity of a product that producers are willing to supply. So that's the schedule, and then for the supply curve, basically as the price increases of a product, then the more incentive people will have to produce that specific product. So like, the more money you give to like, a mechanic or whatever, then the more they're going to take it. But if it's like, really cheap, then no one's gonna work to do what you want.
Oh, okay, I got you. Thanks. And what is the degree to which price changes affect the quantity supplied?
That's the elasticity of supply. And so some products with elastic supply can be made quickly and inexpensively.
Oh yeah, and an elastic supply requires a great deal of time, money, and resources.
Mm-hmm.
All right.
Thanks for helping me.
Yeah, no problem.
So how's business doing?
Not so good. With all these payments, we might not stay in business anymore.
Dang, I was thinking on ways to reduce them. And if we break our profits overseas, it will be out of reach of the Internal Revenue Service, so I won't need to pay taxes.
Is that even legal?
Yeah, everyone does it, like the General Electric Company, International Paper Company, so.
Oh, okay, great idea. We will be saving a lot more money.
We can also pay our employers less and give them less benefits,
What? No way.
What?
There are certain regulations we have to follow for us to stay in business.
Oh, so subsidized, right, by the government so that we could produce more at a lower cost so we could beat our competitors.
Subsidized?
Yeah, it's one determinant that causes the demand curve to shift right.
Determinant?
Yeah, did you not learn about the determinant of supply?
No.
Alright, so here's a supply curve. So basically, supply curve in economics is a graphic representation of the relationship between the product's price and the quantity of the product that a seller is willing and able to supply. And so, in the graph, if it shifts to the right, then it's an increase. And then if it shifts to the left, then it's a decrease in supply.
Okay, so it goes to the right, increase, left,
Yeah.
decrease.
There you go.
I got it.
Oh, and did you also hear about the news?
Nah.
I was like, okay, so it was just recently, China is edging closer to a one-man rule.
Really?
Yeah. So the party, Congress, empowers President Xi Jinping without elevating a likely successor.
Wow.
And the future of 1.4 billion people and the world's second largest economy and an emerging military power now lies largely in the hands of a man named Xi Jinping, who is now the Chinese president. So.
That's not good.
I know.
Alright, man.
Alright, man.
See you.
Alright. Hey, do you know what a total product is?
Yeah, in order to understand total product, you must first understand what input and output is.
Do you know what both those terms mean?
Yeah, input is basically the amount of time and effort you put into something, and output is something that you get of that specific input. And an example of input is if you study for a math test for a couple hours, and an example of output is the grade that you get on that math test.
Oh, I understand now.
Alright, cool question, is the total product similar to marginal product, if you know?
Well, it's like kind of yes and no, because marginal product is the change in output generated by adding one more unit of input.
Oh, okay.
Do you know what the law of diminishing return is?
Yeah, I do. It's the principle that as more of one input is added to a fixed supply of other resources, productivity will increase up to a point after which the marginal product will diminish.
Oh, wow. I see now.
And is fixed cost a negative thing by any chance? Do you know?
No, because that means that production costs don't change as the level of output changes.
I don't really understand that.
So have you ever went to a grocery store, right?
Yeah.
And then the prices of the products in the grocery store that you went to, it usually stays around the same. Like milk is $3.
Yeah.
It's gonna stay around that price.
I see
basically.
now. I see now.
Yeah.
But this is a random question, but do you know why businesses don't determine the amount of depreciation on every capital good they own?
Yeah, because the calculations would take too much time, basically.
Oh, okay.
Do you know what overhead is?
Yeah, I do. It is the sum of a business's fixed costs except for wages and the material costs.
Also, for example, if a company produces $0 or $1,000, $0 or $1,000 every day, then the company's total fixed cost also would be called overhead, and they remain around $3,000.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And do you know the difference between variable cost and total cost?
Yeah. So variable cost is a cost of doing business that changes directly with a change in the level of output, typically rising and dropping as production increases and decreases. And fixed and variable costs involves in the production of a good or service.
Oh, okay. So variable cost is change as the level of output changes,
Mm-hmm.
and the sum of the fixed and variable production costs is a company's total cost.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, basically that's what it is.
Oh, okay. And last one, do you know what your marginal cost is?
Yeah, sure. It's what's it called? It's the cost of producing one additional unit of output.
Oh, okay. So marginal cost is the cost of producing one additional unit of output, pretty much.
Yeah, basically. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Alright.
Thanks, man.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay.